I remember sitting on my desk last year, staring at a blank page, wondering if I would ever write a story again. I felt like every idea that I thought about was either already has been published or written about, or it was just not good enough. And at some point, I just stopped writing. And when I returned to attempt to write again, I just ran out of ideas. I literally had nothing to write. And I thought, that's it. I just lost my writing juice. Since then, I've written a few short stories and I'm working on a novel right now. And I've learned a few lessons about the ideas, or where do they come from, which is the biggest question that a lot of writers get asked about. And I have a few pointers here. Hi friends, my name is Mohammed and I'm a writer. And in this channel, we demystify the writing process and talk about tools and habits that make writing joyful. First, I just want to debunk this originality myth. Most of us wants to write something original, something fresh, something that has never been written about, when in reality, every topic that we can just come up with right now has been written about. The most important questions that we can ask ourselves is, why are we here? And that's a question or a topic that has been written about. If you talk about mental health, if you talk about nationality, if you talk about religious beliefs, if you talk about migration experiences, illness, epidemics, anything that you can think about has been written about before. So this idea of originality, it doesn't exist. Don't spend your time thinking about something original. But there is a way around that, which is, instead of thinking about something original, actually taking a popular idea, say mental health or whatever the case, depression, something very specific. Take something that you're already passionate about, you experience, that you can talk about for days, that you can write about for hours, and add your own personal experience to it. And I think this what makes good writers, is that they add, or they are able to be vulnerable enough to share their own experience in their writing, even if it is fiction. I mean, if you think about the most celebrated writers like Hemingway talks about experiences that he went through, whether it's in Africa, in hunting, or in the mountains of Spain. Those experiences he went through. He just added the drama of the story form. He just added the depth of character and his own, style, which is something that we return to. But those experiences and those stories came from his view of the world. I mean, if he was, for example, if he was a Muslim, he would not be writing the stories that he wrote. He would not be living in the experiences that he experienced. It would be something totally different. So take your experience, take the topics that already exist, that you are passionate about, and speak about them, write about them from your own lens. Because our lenses, or the way we view life and the way we experience life, is like a thumbprint. It's very, very different. Two brothers, two twins can be raised by the same parents, live in the same household, go to the same schools, and still turn out to be different. And that's because we are wired to experience life. We are created to look at life and to experience life in very different ways, and each point view relates to the other. So when I read someone like Ta-Nehisi Coates, for example, who writes a lot about the African American experience. I'm not African American, I don't know what is it like to be black, but then still, when I read his work, I can still relate to that experience, because he is talking about a human emotion and a human experience of deprivation, of plunder, of all of these things that I have seen and my people have experienced in other parts of the world. And so I can relate to what he's talking about, even though we don't share skin color, beliefs, even, we were born in two different parts of the world. And even popular books, like take Ulysses by James Joyce, is basically a story of a man that wakes up one day and he's in Dublin, Ireland, and he goes throughout the day of like doing various things. Now, when Joyce was asked about where did he get the idea from, he said he just got it from the Odyssey, from the Homer's poems. And so the idea is not original. It was the same journey of the Odyssey, but he just took it and he made it in Dublin. I mean, he did add his own style, which complicates the whole thing, and this is why people avoid reading it. But if you appreciate it, if you appreciate the idea and the impact the book has made, you can still then appreciate the fact that the idea wasn't original. It came from an idea that was already written thousands of years before. Now that I'm talking about James Joyce, I'm also thinking about Junot Díaz's book Drown, which is a short story collection about Dominican Americans and Dominican experience in New York City, and just the Spanish-speaking community, let's say. And when he was asked about the book and its original idea, where it came from, he said it came from Dubliners, which James Joyce wrote it before he got into the stylistic, road that he went down to, which was a book, short story collections about, different characters in Dublin. So you take one story collection about different characters in one city, and someone takes it, adds its own, Hispanic, Spanish, Dominican lens to it, and makes it something totally different. And I think this is the most original that you can be. It's taking something that already exists and turn it and make it yours. And instead of spending all of this time coming up with, something original. The second thing that you can do to get more story ideas is become an observer. Develop a writer's eye. Writers, Hemingway says, are very, very different than everybody else, is because they are always recording, they are always observing, and somewhere in the back of their mind, and they don't do this consciously, but once they turn on that key or that switch of the writer's view, is whatever you say to them, whatever you make them feel, whatever they see, then they record it in the back of their mind, and somewhere down the line they will use it as material. I mean, Alma says that if you do not want me to write you as a villain in my books, then be very nice to me. And I think it's valid that we all draw inspiration from the things that we see, whether we sometimes go to a trip or vacation and we come back filled with new ideas to write about. One story that I thought about, an idea that came to me when it comes to these observer's eye method, is that I went into a vacation last winter, my wife and I, and our 3-year-old daughter. At the time she was 2.5, and we went to Mexico. We spent a few days there and we came back, and I couldn't help but think about the way we take vacations as Americans. We literally go to another country for a few days, and on the same day, we literally left in the morning. 7 o'clock our flight was in the morning, and by 12 we were in the beach under sun, and here was raining very, very hard. And just that experience, or that privilege, and the ability to do that while other people cannot come to this country and enjoy the beautiful city of New York City. I mean, it is beautiful. It is not as easy. So I wrote a story about that. It didn't work out. I still in the back burner. I have a few pages of it and I haven't finished it. But then that's one way ideas can come, is from experiences and from observing what's happening around you. Another thing that you can do is create a list or a collection of influencers. These are people, books, authors that you draw inspiration from. These are the voices that you consider as your mentors. For me, some of those are Mohsen Hamad is definitely one. Chekhov is my number one. He is someone who I try to write like. I love the way he view writing. I love the way he just approached the story form and the way he breaks down character, and anything that Chekhov has written, I just soak it up and try to make it my own. They remain in my head as a voice, and whenever I feel like I lack inspiration, I can just return to that particular book, read it, and draw inspiration from. The fourth tip is cross-pollination. We writers tend to stay with the writing sort of circle, so we read books so that we can write books, or that we can get better at writing the books. But in reality, the way you get ideas is by also looking at other art forms, whether it's painting, it's music, it's whatever the case might be, because the way art works is that you are particularly a person who is seeing the world in a very particular way and using the platform, whether it's writing, painting, drawing, to express the feelings or the worldview or the issues or the contradictions that you are experiencing. So Hemingway, for example, will look at a lot of visual art and try to emulate the ideas of paintings or of pictures that other artists have created, so that he can create the scenes, the stories that he was writing. So take one art and apply it to another. Another example that comes to my mind is Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, Between the World and Me. When he wrote it, he said that he listened to Marvin Gaye over on just repeat, because he said his voice and the way he made him feel, he wanted to emulate that feeling, create that feeling, mirror that feeling in the book, Between the World and Me, in whatever he was writing. It's literally an experience. I can't recommend it enough. And the final, and I think the most important thing that every writer should stick to, is making writing a habit. Yes, some days we are gonna feel inspired and we're gonna wanna write a lot, but there are other days where we feel depleted and empty and we would not be right. But one thing that my writing professor told me, or my writing teacher told me during my creative writing program, is that whether you feel like writing or not, every day sit down and actually write. If you cannot write, then at the very least, use the time that was dedicated for writing for reading. I actually do not even read. I actually used to follow that advice, but I no longer do. And I follow Neil Gaiman's advice about when you sit down to write, when it's the dedicated time starts for you to write during your writing session, you have one rule: either write or do nothing. And what ends up happening if you just don't do anything, if you don't go on your phone, check your email, scribble, or do anything else that is entertaining, or I don't know, take a walk or whatever the case might be, if you just stick to just sitting down and be bored, then the writing will become more fun than sitting down and doing nothing. That trains your mind an expectation for yourself that when you sit down, you are there to do the work. And one thing or one caveat that I have found out for me that works is that if I don't do anything, or ever sit down and do nothing, and for a while I just don't have anything to write down, I would journal. I would literally just start a new page, and this is usually on pen and paper, not on the computer. And sometimes I would journal about the story or the character that I'm actually writing about. So I will say, in the character's voice, I hate, and I will just start journaling for 5-10 minutes. I love, and I just start journaling for 5-10 minutes. Another question that works, that I took from Alan Watts' 90-day novel, is one secret that I haven't told anyone is, or one I am always guilty about, and then just start journaling. Just those sort of like questions or prompts that promote for you to, one, discover the character more, second, to embody your main character, so that when you are actually writing, you know about your character more than what you're actually writing or showing the reader. And I think that's where the best writing comes, when you know more than what you reveal, because then you make decisions on what you're showing, and what you are showing is the thing that you want the reader to follow. There you have it. These are 5 tips for you to gain, or to never run out of good ideas to write about, and I hope they are helpful. And if you stick around this far, then you will enjoy my video on not waiting till you get discovered. A lot of us wait until we get discovered as a writer. We think there is a magic that happens when we keep writing, publishing in small websites and in small publishing houses, and somewhere down the line someone will knock on our door and we will be discovered and be rewarded for all the missed opportunities that the publishers or the world have experienced from us. And I think that's not the way it happens. And so here is a video about that. I hope you enjoy it. In the meantime, keep writing, and until next time.